The Laṅkāvatāra Sūtra, Chapter 2, Mahamati's Questions 2. After he had finished his verses in praise of the Buddha, Mahamati introduced himself. My name is Mahamati. To plumb the depths of the Mahayana, I come before the Peerless One with 108 questions. On hearing this request, the knower of all worlds gazed upon the assembly and told this son of Buddhas, Ask your questions, son of victors. Ask and I will explain the realm of personal realization. Acknowledging the Bhagavan's approval, Mahamati Bodhisattva touched his head to the Buddha's feet, put his palms together in reverence, and asked in verse, How is thinking purified? Where does it come from? How should we regard delusion? Where does it come from? Why are there lands and apparitions, attributes and other paths, stages of practice and freedom from projection? And what does son of victor mean? Where does liberation lead? Who is bound and who is freed? What are the realms of meditation? Why are there three paths? How does causation work? What is a cause or an effect? Why say they are different, and where do they come from? What are the formless meditations? What is cessation of perception? After all perceptions cease, how does awareness arise from trance? How do effects come about? How do we control our body? How do we see what we see? Where do stages come from? Who breaks through all three realms? In what place and body? Where are they then born? And why are there bodhisattvas? How are higher powers gained? Masteries and samadhis? Tell us, victor of victors, what is the mind in samadhi like? What is repository consciousness? The will and conceptual consciousness? How do they arise and cease? What makes sensation stop? What constitutes a lineage? No lineage or nothing but mind? How are attributes acquired? What does no self mean? How could there be no beings? Why teach conventional truths? How do we put an end to views of eternity or annihilation? Why do the Buddha and other teachers not look different from each other? Why in future ages will there be different sects? What is the cause of emptiness? What does momentary mean? Where does a womb come from? Why does the world not shake? How is the world like a dream or illusion, a city of Gandharvas, a seasonal mirage, moonlight on the water? Why speak of aids to enlightenment or elements of awareness? What causes chaos in a kingdom? Why does belief in existence exist? Why does the world not arise or cease? How is it like a flower in the sky? How do we know about the world if you say it transcends language? What is freedom from projection like? How is it like the sky? How many kinds of suchness are there? Consciousness or paramitas? How do we progress through stages? Who gets free from projection? What are the two kinds of no-self? How do we purify knowledge? How many kinds of knowledge are there? Moral codes or beings? Who created precious things? Such things as gems and pearls. Who invented languages, the different kinds of beings? Who was it who revealed fields of knowledge and technique? How many forms of poetry are there? What about prose and meter? How many kinds of logic are there? What constitutes an explanation? Where do food and drink come from? What gives rise to sexual desire? What constitutes a king, a minor regent, or Chakravartin? How do they protect their realms? How many kinds of deities are there? What is meant by earth? the sun and moon and stars? How many kinds of liberation are there? How many kinds of practitioners? How many kinds of disciples? What constitutes a master? How many kinds of Buddhas are there? How many lives do they live? How many kinds of demons exist? How many heterodox teachings? How many modes of reality are there? How many kinds of mind? Please tell me, best of speakers, what does mere designation mean? Why are there wind and clouds in the sky? Why do memory and insight exist? Why are there trees and forests? Why are there grasses and vines? Why are elephants, horses, and deer trapped and caught by men? O charioteer of the mind, why are some people despised? Why do we observe 6 seasons? Why are there echantikas? How do males and females and androgynes come to be? Why do some adepts regress? Why do some advance? How do meditation masters teach? What kind of people do they train? What are the marks and attributes of beings born in different realms? What constitutes material wealth? How is it acquired? How did the Shakyas come to be? The lineage of the Ishvakus? Who was the ascetic sage? What was it that he taught? How does the Tathagata appear in every time and place, surrounded by sons of victors of different names and likenesses? Why shouldn't we eat meat? Why is meat prescribed? Why are there carnivorous beings? Why do they eat meat? Why are lands and kingdoms shaped like the sun or moon, Sumeru or a lotus flower, a swastika or lion? Why are lands and kingdoms shaped like Indra's net, overturned above us, composed of countless jewels? Why are lands and kingdoms shaped like a drum or lute, or like some kind of flower, or bereft of the sun and moon? What is an apparition Buddha? A Buddha of fruition. What is a Buddha of suchness? A Buddha of true knowledge. Why in the realm of desire is enlightenment not attained? Why is it found beyond desire in the highest heaven of form? After the Sugata enters nirvana, who will uphold the Dharma? How long will the teacher teach? How long will his teaching last? How many kinds of attainment are there? How many doctrinal views? What is the cause and purpose of a code of ethics or for monks? Why do sons of victors, Pratyeka Buddhas and Shravakas experience 100 transformations, 100 projectionless realms? Which powers are mundane? Which ones are transcendent? Could you please explain what are the 7 stages? How many kinds of Sangha are there? What brings about dissension? What are the texts on medicine? What led to their creation? Why does Mahamuni speak such words as these? I am Kashyapa Buddha, Krakuchanda, and Kanaka Muni. Why do you speak of a self and no self, of eternity and annihilation? Why not teach the truth? Everything is made of mind. Why are there male and female trees, Karitaki and Amali groves, Mount Kailash and the Iron Ring, Diamond Summit, and the other peaks? And why are all these mountains adorned with countless jewels, rishis and Gandharvas? Please tell us why this is. After hearing all these gathas on the teachings of the Mahayana, on the heart of every Buddha, the knower of worlds then answered, Well and ably asked. Now listen, Mahamati. The questions you have raised I will answer one by one. As for birth and no birth, nirvana, emptiness and moments, rebirth and no self-existence, Buddhas and paramitas, Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and bodhisattvas, the formless practices of other schools, Sumeru and seas and mountains, continents and other lands, the sun and moon and constellations, asuras and gods of other paths, liberations, masteries and powers, meditations and samadhis, extinction and psychic travel, aids and elements of enlightenment, meditations and boundless states, transmigration and the skandhas, cessation of perception in meditation, thinking and talking during samadhi, conceptual consciousness, will and mind, the 5 dharmas, and no self. Modes of reality, projecting and projection, the duality of seeing and seen, spiritual paths and lineages, gold and silver and gems, material elements and ichantikas, chaos and a single Buddha, knowing the known and instruction, the existence or not of beings. And as for why such animals as elephants and horses are caught, how reason and illustration work, or how they give rise to proofs, and as for cause and effect, penetrating a forest of doubt, nothing but mind and no visible world, and no sequence of stages. And as for transformations and the end of projections, medical treatments and crafts, sciences and arts, and why you ask about these, and as for how to measure lands and mountains and Sumeru, oceans and the sun and moon, and why you ask about these, and as for the number of dust motes in beings of different sizes, the dust motes in a realm or how many in a bow length, and as for forearms or feet in a krosha, in a yojana or half a yojana, the rabbit hairs in a dust mote or louse egg, the sheep hairs in a barley grain. And as for barley grains in a quart, in a pint, or in a peck, in a bushel or 10 or 100,000, in a million or a billion. And as for dust motes in a mustard seed, or mustard seeds in a grass grain, or grass grains in a pea, or how many peas in a gram, and as for how many grams in an ounce, or ounces in a pound, or counting on like this, how many of these in Sumeru? As for what you rightly ask, and why should you ask otherwise, but why not ask instead, the number of dust motes in a Shravaka, the number in a Pracheka Buddha, in a Bodhisattva or Tathagata, the dust motes in the tip of a flame, or in a gust of wind, the number in an organ of sense, a skin pore or an eyelash. But as for men of wealth and power, kings and chakravartins, and how they protect their realms, and how they obtain liberation, and as for poetry and prose, or why beings want different things, like different foods and drinks, or why there are male and female trees, and as for the diamond-hard mountain about which you ask, why it resembles a dream or illusion, or a seasonal mirage, and as for why there are clouds, or why there are 6 seasons, or why there are different flavors, or men and women and androgynes, and as for the wearing of jewelry, and why, son of Buddhas, you ask about this, or why rishis and Gandharvas adorn these sacred peaks, and as for where liberation leads, or who is bound and who is freed, or the realms of meditation, apparitions and other paths, and as for if causation exists, or if causation doesn't, or how perceptions vanish, or how thoughts are purified, and as for how to transform your thoughts, or how to transform your actions, how to put an end to projections, or how to rise from samadhi, and as for who breaks through the 3 realms, and in what place or body, or if beings have no self, why accept the conventional view, and as for asking about my marks, or if I have no self, or if my other bodies are the product of a womb, and as for views of annihilation or eternity, or how to settle the mind, or language and knowledge, lineages, precepts and bodhisattvas, and as for logic and explanation, masters and disciples, the different kinds of beings, and why you ask about these, and what they eat and drink, and demons, insight and designation, and as for trees and vines, regarding which, son of victors, you ask, and why there are different lands, or who Dirghatapas was. And as for my clan and family, or who my teachers were, and why some people are despised, or why some people meditate, and why there is no enlightenment in the realm of desire. And as for why it happens in Akhantisha heaven, or which powers are mundane, or what constitutes a monk, and as for apparition Buddhas, or Buddhas of fruition, or Buddhas of true suchness, or Buddhas of impartial knowledge, or the nature of the Sangha, concerning which, son of victors, you ask, and as for lands shaped like a drum, a lute, or a flower, and why some lands are bereft of light, and what the mind is like during the 7 stages. All such things and more you ask, proper for a son of Buddhas, in accord with relevant forms, and free from erroneous views. Today I will reveal truths that transcend words, while I list them one by one. Listen well, you bodhisattvas, to these 108 statements, as spoken by Buddhas of the past.